Welcome to Is It Wrong to Watch So Much Anime with Jason and John, as we give you a quick 15 to 20 minutes of inside opinion and updates about the world of anime as we see it. This program is brought to you by the Parker Williams Branch, a Harris County Public Library. Let's go over the rules. This is a planned topics podcast. We will try and stick to the topic at hand and not have too many tangents. Number 2, while recording, we will have a 15-minute timer. We will try to wrap everything up within that 15 minutes. If we are having a good conversation towards the end of that time, there will be a bonus 5 minutes to wrap it up. Number 3, if the conversation is still too good to stop, we will stop recording that episode and start recording an overtime episode back-to-back released on the same day. And a fair warning, spoilers happen. Oops, our bad. Hello everybody, welcome to this episode of Is It Wrong to Watch So Much Anime? And today's theme is fight. Fight, 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 fight. Alright, so the fighting tournament arc is an anime archetype that is used as a guide of competition that usually advances a character's development, learning, practice, persistence or grit, and also to show off different skill levels. So
they're also really great for giving you fighting combinations you wouldn't normally see, because it's usually the good guys, right? How often do you see them fight? It's the live action equivalent to Justice League getting brain controlled so you have to fight each other. It's just really cool, because other than that, you get to see how these people would play off each other in different kind of fighting or superpowered settings. So it's pretty cool.
So, one of the originals was a show from the 1970s called Tomorrow's Joe. This was a boxing show in which you have Joe Yakabuji, who is a juvenile delinquent who fights in the slums of Tokyo. He goes to prison and discovers boxing. He also discovers his rival, Rikishi, who becomes his rival and gives him purpose in boxing. So, also struggles to improve educationally before he's able to get a professional boxing license, begins fighting and training as a professional, makes his way through the ranks, struggle, which is, what we all are, looking for, is for the protagonist to be struggling along and, making successes.
Mm-hmm. A staple in tournament arcs.
Finally gets up to the point where he's able to fight Rikishi, and then he punches him in the head, I guess one too many times. He gets knocked out, and then Rikishi dies because of brain hemorrhaging or bleeding in the brain.
Which is a really big spoiler, I assume. I haven't seen it, but that's more just because I haven't made my way that far back into anime shows yet. So
then as a character, he has to then get past not being able to punch people in the head because he's afraid of killing them. I guess.
Which is kind of counterintuitive to the whole goal of boxing, because you have to hit them in the head.
Kind of like Rocky 3, or is it Rocky 2?
I haven't seen any
the one
Rocky
with Mr.
movies,
T.
So
the Rocky movie with Mr. T, where he kills Apollo Creed, or no, that's the Russian. That's 4. The Russian kills
spoiling
Apollo
a lot
Creed.
of Rocky movies that
Well,
I've never seen.
Hey, they've been out there since before you were born, so that's
at
your
this
fault.
point it's on me.
Yeah. So he has to overcome punching people in the face so that he can be a better boxer, eventually getting himself to be the grand champion, yada yada. So here we go, 50 years later. Last year, one of the series that I really liked was one called Megalobox.
That one I did watch, and it was really good. It's on, they just put it on Funimation, I think.
I think it was on Crunchyroll as well.
And Crunchyroll maybe? I think
so.
They just added it to a lot of places. So you can find it really easily, and usually for free.
So this one is the 50th anniversary of Tomorrow's Joe. So the main character that they have his name is Junk Dog, basically another slum fighter, except in this world they use what's called gear, and the gear is like an exosuit type, upper arm, system.
Yeah, it's a fight suit, just with your upper half of the body.
So that you can punch harder, punch faster, and
look a little cooler.
Pretty
'Cause,
much.
I mean, let's be honest, who wouldn't fight with mechanical arms?
Yeah, well, yeah, boxing exoskeletons as
There
they
you go.
were.
That's the word.
There you go. Let's see here. So then he meets, because he has this habit of just driving his motorcycle like head on into like everything, probably to face his fears or what have you. Meets Yuri, who's a world-class boxer, the #1 champion, and decides that he wants to challenge him. Yuri takes up the challenge because he disrespected his boss, and he goes into one of the slum fights with Junk Dog, and he says he'll beat him with his hand tied behind his back. Well, in the fight, he has
Which
to
is
bring
very insulting in fighting terms,
Yeah.
by the way.
he has to bring out that hand so that he can block one of the punches, and that gains Junk Dog's respect for Yuri, or Yuri, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yuri respects
Yuri
Junk
respects Junk
Dog
Dog.
because he acknowledges that he has skill and talent that might make him a world-class fighter.
So he invites him to go into their tournament arc, which is where this one starts out.
The Megalobox League.
Exactly.
That's the name.
So in order for Junk Dog to get his rematch, he has to go through all of it, beat everyone, and then still be good, not be hurt enough to fight him and, hopefully win.
So to get into all this, they have to make a deal with the Yakuza to get him a Megaloboxing license. So since he has no name, his name is Junk Dog, it's just Joe. So
Call back to the first shot.
exactly, Return of Tomorrow's Joe. Let's see here.
The whole thing is pretty cool just because there's, what's the word you used? Slum fighters, right? So, of course, they don't have the high-end gear that other people do have. When they do get their hands on one, it kind of breaks. So the whole tournament arc, he's basically playing with a handicap. So it shows us how Junk Dog is still just a really good natural fighter, but he can also think about his moves and still outfight the other people that, have better gear, that would usually be better off than he is.
So in his first professional fight, his gear breaks down. So he fights without the gear. At first, it's a necessity, but then it becomes part of his persona. He gets the nickname Gearless Joe. Let's see here. Then, much like in Tomorrow's Joe, he has 5 tough fights that he has to get through, personal perseverance and all that stuff.
Another staple of fighting tournament arcs.
So that he can actually get to the championship with Yuri. And in that championship, spoiler alert, Yuri takes off his gear so that he can fight him natural versus natural to see who has the best natural skill for boxing and not just the best gear.
That fight's really good. A lot of to say that'll come up often just because, of course, tournament arcs have to have really good fights. That's like half of the reason to watch them, the fights. But it's also the build-up, I think, because you watch Yuri, you see how good he is too, but then you see him take off the gear because of everything that's been going on between the two. So that whole fight it's not just a one-off, it's been building up a whole season.
So on one side you have Gearless Joe, who is trying to prove himself, and then on the other half you have Yuri, who's trying to redefine his identity past just being a boxer for a major corporation.
It was a really good fight.
So moving on. Next tournament would be Gata High School. So Gata High School just finished up. And it's basically a Korean tournament to find out who is the highest, most powerful fighter in all of Korea in a high school setting. But it's also really just a smokescreen to find what they call the key that will unlock the heavens. So in this one, there's a power called Cherikot, which is basically like borrowing a god's power and being able to use it in your own fight. So this one centers around 3 characters, Jin Mori, Daewoo Han, and Mira Yu. So we've got Jin Mori, who basically wants to fight to prove himself to his grandpa and live up to the expectations of being, I guess, the tiger cub is what they call him.
Mm-hmm.
He also, or if you win the tournament, you get to make a wish. And he wants to wish.
Dragon Ball.
Yeah, oh, really? He wants to wish so that he can help people. And then beyond that, he wants to discover the power beyond Chericote.
So, I haven't finished this show. And it's not that I think it's bad per se, the story's just weird. And I think that's just one of the things it has going against it. The story's kind of weird. The fights are amazing, which, like we said, is like half the reason for this tournament arc.
So the first one that we see that uses the Chericote is Daewoo Han. And he wants to help his best friend beat cancer with some sort of nanomite technology that all the competitors get to use.
Which I don't get. If they have that, just give it away. But whatever. That's
So he has to overcome his fears about, creating friends and meeting other people. And through the process, he becomes friends with Jin and with Mira. Then Mira is wanting to make sure her father's dream of the Moonlight Sword style becoming appreciated by the world, but at the same time facing her problems of trying to accept people as family. That comes from her uncle and her cousin as her adoptive family by blood, as well as Jin and Daewoo as her adoptive family by choice.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another thing they have going for it. They nail that part of it. I think for me, like you meet these people, they become your friends, and sometimes those people are as close to you as your actual family. So I did like that aspect too. But again, the fights are like the biggest draw to this show because I forget which studio did it, but they did it really well. Mappa, maybe?
I think it was, maybe.
But they did the fights really well.
Yeah. So post-hunter exam, they're still being tested, even though they don't know it. So they have to learn more skills to keep up their hunter's license.
Yeah.
So we've got Gon, who wants to improve so that he can fight Hinosuka and return that number, or Hisoka, wants to return the 44 tag to him.
So
ends up learning Nen and other forms beyond it. And you've got Killua, who basically is there for money and domination, which is basically his shtick.
So at the end of the first arc, or towards the end of the Hunter, okay, so Hunter, the first arc I would say is probably the weakest. It's still a good one, but it's just that everything that came after it is just on a higher level, I guess. So let's say that's an 8 out of 10, and like Chimera Ants would be straight 10 out of 10, and it builds up from that. So the reason for that is because as immediately after that you get Heaven's Arena, which is their tournament arc. It's introducing Nen, which is a whole new power system that wasn't present in the series before that. And Nen is really cool because it's not just power of friendship type stuff. You have 6 different types of abilities that people correspond to. And just one isn't inherently better than the other. You always have to use strategy or your knowledge to beat someone. And Gon starts out going into Heaven's Arena because he owes Hisoka a punch in the face. And to get to that, he has to actually level up, learn how to use Nen, and actually beat other people on his way to Hisoka. So he starts out learning his new skill, right, in the tournament arc. And the way these fights are centered, it doesn't take one loss to kick him out, which is good because he does lose. And I like that he loses because it shows that growth. It shows the growth that he's learning how to actually use his new powers. So, and like you said, Killua is there to learn Nen, beat people up, and support Gon, which is why he's like a top tier best friend. So if you ever meet someone like Killua, you need to like keep him. But throughout all of that, he's learning, he's losing, but he comes back a little bit stronger. And they're both naturally talented. The show shows you this. They're both naturally talented, but that doesn't guarantee a win. Even once he gets to Hisoka, it's never about winning. That's not where all the, I guess, drama comes from. You're just you're there to see can he do this? Has he progressed enough to finally punch Hisoka in the face? And when he does, it's really cool. He loses overall, but he set out what he accomplished to do. And I think that the tournament arc worked to show that with Go, to help, give him a little bit more background and just make the show all around more interesting, because Nen opened up so much stuff for the rest of the show to continue to.
Well, and on to our favorite sports festival arc would be My Hero Academia, second season. So,
personally, the second season of My Hero is probably my favorite one of what's been shown. A large part of that is because of the sports festival. The tournament arc, like we said, is done in 12, 13 episodes. So the pacing is like that. But nothing feels unearned, right? Wasted. Because you've got character growth, which, again, our bread and butter. You've got amazing fights, again, bread and butter. Like
amazing
music,
art,
everything.
Combinations.
You've got fights against. You get to see the fights between Midoriya, Bakugo, Todoroki, Uraraka, even Shinzo, who is like nobody knew who he was before this, because it's the first time he shows up, and their fight was still entertaining to watch. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and that's the guy who makes people do things.
Yes,
with
like
his
you have
voice.
to answer.
But the character development on him was amazing, because it
And it was in
showed
just
that
one episode.
he didn't want to be a villain. He wanted to be with what some people would categorize as a villain type power. He wanted to be a hero and use it for good.
Yes.
And it gave him that exposure to be able to show people that.
And that was just with at the time, could be like a one-off side character. He's shown up more. But it's that kind of character growth, or, development, I mean. And when it's applied to, like, all the main characters, too, is why I really like this arc.
Well, you'd also mentioned the stress-free nature of it.
Yes.
That we're not under so much stress, that they can showcase their powers without having to be like, well, if I don't get my provisional license, I can't go and be part of the class.
If I don't stop All for One now, everyone dies, right? So it's the only season, I think, that doesn't have one big bad that's trying to kill a bunch of people. Well, not counting State, but I mean, season 3 had All for One. Season 1, you had Nomu's trying to infiltrate the school and kill all the kids. So
like no looming
there's
terror.
no looming overall threat. It's just them trying to prove why they deserve to be there, and what they're trying to use their ability to show that they will be the best. So shows up in, I think my favorite episode for that one is Midoriya versus Todoroki.
Well,
I mean, I think that's most people's.
Midoriya has the least amount of growth, I mean, physically in this one.
Because he's learned how to better control, I guess, so that his power, so that he doesn't completely wreck his arm at once. He does it in chunks now with his fingers and all this other stuff, so that it doesn't take him out of the fight immediately, which is, better than what he used to be doing, which is just destroying an arm and becoming useless.
But his strongest characterization in this arc is that he becomes a catalyst for change for the other characters.
Yeah, because everyone that comes up, not even in a fight, but
In
being
contact.
with him in contact is how it helps them change. Todoroki went from someone that's this solo lone wolf type to someone who's actually able to be friends with everybody. Uraraka is becoming more independent because she found that she was relying too much on them. Ida just was trying to be the best. He still kind of is. It's funny.
Nerd.
And Bakugo, he's always trying to win. Going up against Midoriya just lights a fire under him, and he's, keeps improving.
So, well, and then with Todoroki, in this arc, we finally start to see him use fire and ice together.
Yes.
So,
And Midoriya is a big reason that happens. I think that line where he's telling him that it's his power,
that
like
his
not
fire
his
has
dad's.
nothing
His
to
dad
do
has
with
nothing
it.
to do with it. It's yours. That was that culmination for Todoroki that really made that episode like a 10 out of 10. The whole season, but that whole season, I love it because of that arc.
Well,
Where Todoroki goes to that.
I'm looking forward to next season's arc with the pro heroes of seeing Endeavor actually not be a jerk bag.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, if you can get this level of growth from just a tournament arc, the author of this manga can just do whatever. I will be there. This is my favorite tournament arc. There might be better ones, but for me, this was the one that really sold the whole idea to me. And it's really amazing.
well, and a thing to say about Bakugo, who basically just, this is his thing. He dominates in this situation.
Yes.
When he went up against Uraraka, he did not pull any punches.
Yeah.
You know, people
That was
are just
also
like,
a good one.
well, they're just like, oh, well, she's a girl. Shouldn't he be holding back? And he didn't, because she had a strategy that she had worked on her own.
And he respected her enough to not take it easy. So that's Bakugo's kind of a bully, but and especially in the early seasons, he's slowly getting over it. But even then, he doesn't let that, I guess, view other people as worse, because that's how he started. But going through the first season, he's seen that there are people that are just as good and could objectively be better than him. So that also pushes him to treat everyone like they're a real threat, and it also shows that he can be a threat too.
Well, and that he does show his respect, and his respect for the most part is him trying to blow you up.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least, Dragon Ball, because how could we not say something about Dragon Ball?
That's true.
And this is Dragon Ball Z through Super. Pretty much Goku lives his whole life as a fighting tournament, either as another fighter or as a celestial being that comes down to try and, you know, take out the Earth or the universe, or
It's like live, fight, die, repeat.
yeah,
Goku.
yeah.
It's
So-
not really a spoiler if it happens all the time.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it by this point, that's your fault. So he basically goes through the steady routine of he fights somebody that is overpowered, he dies, he trains, he fights that person again after he's, you know, revived by the Dragon Balls. Again, your fault if you haven't seen it by now.
Spoilers. And eventually he wins.
Yeah, he evolves and then he wins. So all of his evolutions from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Super, you've got Base Goku, Great Ape, Kaioken, Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, and 4, Golden Great Ape, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, Ultra Instinct, and that's it.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
it used to. The only one I used to know was Super Saiyan, but that was because that was the biggest one, and apparently they've added like 20 different ones now.
yeah,
So
yeah. But does Goku really learn anything? Not really.
doesn't look like it.
He just kind of powers up and punches stuff.
But when that's all you need,
Yeah,
it's okay. You just need to be able to punch the other god harder.
pretty much. So that is Fighting Tournament Arcs. Yay! So thank you for joining us, and hopefully you will see us next time for our Halloween special. We're going to talk about a lot of different
Horror shows.
horror shows or where Halloween shows up in Japan.
That's true. We could probably find a few.
Yep.
At least the
right.
horror ones. So
See you later.
bye.